So last week in Splat Chat, the third episode, Nito, you would remember this one. We actually had to rank our third, where we thought the third kits would fall. Our
Oh
read
boy.
with myself, Nito, Dark, and Falco. This is a quick reminder for those who are just trying to tune in for the most part for the winners. I think Nito, we are not entirely surprised that most of the picks that we had on the winners side kind of made an appearance.
No, not surprised at all. I mean, I mentioned it before, and I kind of said it again. I feel like the pro, the pro and the mini got the pro, the mini, and or the pro, the mini, and the rapid all got the best kits. And I know I didn't say it much of it at the first time around, but that rapid is basically a second cooler with its own set of drawbacks. But at the end of the day, it is a scary weapon to look at from like first impressions. Not surprised that it is the same case right now. I wish we did give more attention to that 96 because it is a funny kit to look a funny kit to look at. I know when it comes to line marker or angle shooter or whatever it's being called, I actually forgot. There's a couple of names I've heard it called. I just call it the little marker. But as far as I know, that one it's not looked at as much because that sub is such a high. I don't want to say high risk. It's a high skill curve, and a high reward play, which is why I don't see too much of it. Obviously, you're gonna favor more conventional subs for that, but I do wish I paid a little more attention to that 96. But other than that, I like what we did that last time around.
The dualies were the ones that from our loser side made an appearance, but that's actually primarily just because there were better kits that the dualies had at the time, so that made a lot of sense for us. But I figured you guys would be beholden to know that information right away. Um, that was a lot of talk about the area cup weapons, but even with all the circuits being talked about, now that people have had their hands on all the changes from the third weapons and all the changes from the recent patch, we gotta start some discussion somewhere, right? And the big discussion that definitely has showed up on my blue sky at some point is obviously the discussion surrounding the current meta, especially top level side. More importantly, one mode that has been the source of many discussions is Rainmaker. Everybody, we gotta open
Boy,
Pandora's box with Rainmaker.
oh boy.
I
Ooh.
Now, if anybody wants to talk about Rainmaker, feel free to be my guest. Why on earth is Rainmaker the big discussion here today?
So the
Okay,
awkward thing about Rainmaker, right? It's a defensive mode with hype moments. And how much the teams you play against or play with spec into that more defensive side, you either see the mode as like, wow, this mode can be very hype. It's it can do some cool things, or it can be, wow, we really did not push the objective for 3 minutes. Awesome, great stuff. Very,
It's
very divisive mode.
I've seen so much division, a lot of it going over to the what Kraken kind of being the special that everybody hones in on, especially because of the third kid splatter shot. But it's kind of intriguing to see the discussion around because I looked at the weapons like, well, I guess this kind of was coming with like the 30 new weapons that got introduced.
yeah, I mean, like half of them got Kraken. It seems like most of this discussion is centering around Kraken, the special, because of how most of the new maps or really most of the Splatoon 3 maps are shaped, just being like a straight line towards one pedestal, one straight line towards the other. It seems like Kraken is now the special to beat because all you need to do is sit behind it and hope that nobody shoots at you enough that it actually gets to hit you at some point. But most of it's centered around Kraken. I know it's not something you want to play against, especially in a mode where you have to like control the pace, control where the objective goes, and that's where most of it seems to be going. I don't know that Rainmaker, it's at least for me, Rainmaker has always been a question of, all right, which team gets it past like 30 remaining? And if you get it past 30 remaining, as far as I've seen, you just might be golden. And apart from that, if it's like just right before that, I don't know what happens.
What makes
Yeah, it's
Rainmakers?
so
You go ahead. You go ahead.
it's so interesting. So this is a term that I learned from Fuzzy, or sorry, from FOC. I'm obviously like old analyst back in Splatoon 2 that they didn't want to got a content there, describing Splatoon as a high watermark game. Basically, what that means is that it doesn't matter how well you did on average. It's what is the best push you got. Because think about it, like tower, you push to 19, you could be on spawn, like for the rest of the game. But if your opponents don't push past that 19 point, it doesn't matter. That one push is all that matters. Same with Clamps, and then really same with Rainmaker. And that fact there, it's a huge part of why Rainmaker can feel so just slow sometimes. And some like, okay, wow, it looks like instead of trying to push the Rainmaker, trying to at least maybe go from like 35 to like 19, the team is like, okay, I don't even want to risk pushing to 35. That's enough of a lead. The opponents have to break through a checkpoint. They have to push through all our mist, our Krakens that are spammed on cooldown because of our G shot, our Zukas that are spammed because of our new mini, and then I'm just gonna park the rain in the spot. I don't mind just sitting here. You guys have to approach me.
With the new weapons, I think are only just gonna make that whole the discourse behind Rainmaker worse, because you exactly hit the two things. Because you got more Kraken options. The mini with the Zuka is just gonna likely going to be wrecking house. There you go. There's the post especially that talked about it too. Positive, but Rainmaker definitely the point of contention. But it feels like, especially when you factor in like all the common kits you see, it feels like it. I feel like my read is that Rainmaker is just going to get more and more stallier than before. I'm not sure if you guys agree with that.
I mean,
Yeah.
this is Splatoon 3. I saw it at the beginning of Splatoon 3, and I see it now. Games are more neutral than before, and call it what you want. Call it the maps themselves, or blame it on the maps themselves. Blame it on the fact that it doesn't seem like when you get past mid that, or anytime you get past like this middle line in mid, that you may not see teams doing much other than trying to get picks, and we sometimes forget about objective. Call it whatever you want. Just call it whatever you want. It just seems like games are more stally in Splatoon 3, which, again, blame it on what you want, but I don't know that Rainmaker is a direct casualty of it. Although, to your point, Kraken is Kraken is not really something you want to just like point a splatter shot towards and be like, all right, you can't get past me, because you can't get past Rainmaker.
But
Yeah, it's
now the other thing I wanted to bring up too is, isn't it also just a byproduct of how the Splatoon 3 maps are in general though? Because that one has also probably been the course of why this is being discussed. Are there even any good Rainmaker maps in Splatoon 3 to everybody's definition, I guess?
The ones that come from Splatoon 2.
it's so wrong. Because like there's Rainmaker Undertow. You kind of have two routes. Smile. It's like, so like if someone ever like pulls up a planner and like tries to, you don't even have to pull up a planner. You can just go in game, right? Look at the ramp from the grass type area to the right checkpoints on Undertow. A mist covers all of that. Awesome. All right, let's go to the left side. Oh, it's unequal, and then a mist also covers all of that. Wow. And then as you look through more and more Rainmaker maps, you see these really thin passageways that the Rainmaker has to cross through that are just begging to get spammed down by a Mist or a Zuka or a Rapid Pro that's spamming you. Rapid Pro is really good at Rainmaker, by the way. Or like we were talking about Kraken, for example, right? You have to push, you can't even like flake around and try to maneuver around the Rainmaker. You don't even have a chance. You just have to stay in mid and pray that the Rainmaker doesn't die, because the Kraken's gonna be faster than it, because the Rainmaker is like debuffed. It is a scoring points at Rainmaker is just an absolute mess right now, and it's not getting better because of the kids. So I would not be surprised to see a more stalling metagame.
Sorry, I'm seeing the Chara post from Blue Sky, and I'm thinking, I mean, you look at all what the meta has been for a good while now, how long we talked about Crab, how long we talked about Zuka and Cooler, and I'm like, has it most of competitive Splatoon been super special heavy, stally? And I'm like, I don't know. Feel free to challenge me, obviously, but like, I've been looking at this post and I'm like, yeah, that's been Splatoon 3. I mean, again, I'm willing to admit Kraken's gonna make Rainmaker pain in the tucks to deal with, but like, this is kind of where we've been.
I love that you bring that up. That I just have to say it 100% depends on the mode. like 100%. Because Clams, Rainmaker, those games on that all those modes go to 5 minutes because it really shows off one, the map design, to the massive difficulty in scoring points. That's manifested in different ways, though, right? Because in Rainmaker, it's because of all the spam. But in Clams, that's more of you need to take fights to take space in Clams. But because the goals are so far apart from each other, teams are going to fight a lot. But then you have to fight once to get from your spawn to and you have to fight again to get like mid to kind of the goal, and you have to fight a third time to actually get to the goal. And then after winning that chain of fights, you can finally actually start scoring. When all those 3-4 fights before, you have the chance of just losing your clans. So I wouldn't really say that's it becomes like stally in that sense, but it's very difficult to score there. But zones, I would say, is actually not that stally at all. And if we look at one of the most recent area, well, the most recent area cup, right? The team that won, Domination, the way that they will play is they would have Toto on the mints and they'd have Tiramisu on the Guga. They would take as many aggressive fights as they can, trying to proc Haunts, trying to proc QR. And as they start to scale up, their mini spying player, the new mini spying player in Ryukun, would paint around the map, put beacon there, beacon there, beacon there, trying to just paint it around like that. And when they get a hold, they would fight. Because they would just go for a trade, land in the beacon, fight more, get a trade, get the core on the jump, they're going to jump to the pen. The mini spines deploying more beacons. So it's like, it's not really stally in that sense. At the end of the day, it's just like really dependent on the mode.
I actually had to dig up the map list for Rainmaker maps that I've seen get played across tournaments. Now, obviously, your mileage may vary on how visible some of these maps are. Obviously, people know that Undertow is probably one of the best Rainmaker maps in general. But other Rainmaker maps in general, to help aid this discussion here, you got Scorch Gorge Rainmaker that sees airtime, Museum de Alfonsino Rainmaker as well, Humpback Pump Track, as divisive as that is, and how falling claustrophobic that is, that does get airtime. And then the uncommon ones, the ones that kind of appear on occasional map lists, you see Manta Maria, Crab Lake, Capital, and the one time when one Ludi season ran Ramen Rainmaker as well. And I think that those, if you look at those list of maps, I can kind of see why this discourse is being brought up, because there's only like 4 really good maps, and the rest are either just trash or it's very mid.
Yeah, it's a rough. Yeah, you go.
No, I was just saying, yeah, pretty much. I mean, that's welcome to Splatoon 3.
That's kind of the I feel like with these new weapons, I feel like it's only just gonna get worse for some of the maps in general. Maybe will we ever see a time that Rainmaker just does not see the light of day in some tournaments, or would we only see it in certain top level that never makes appearance at all?
It's interesting. It really depends on the sort of how willing are both of the teams on average to play to the things that make the mode really stally, right? Where it's like something that actually Japan would do, that area cup, the area cup TO was hosted, was a canvas cup that was Rainmaker only. And we saw the worst of Rainmaker there. We saw double missed vac comps that would play extremely slow, extremely stally, try to get one lead and then just miss all for the rest of the game. But that's not everybody's Rainmaker, quote unquote. There's actually a post from Pika Dave talking about the idea of competitive Splatoon as bubbles, like a sort of like top level bubble, mid level, low level, that kind of thing. And the idea Pika brings up is that the type of Rainmaker that is played and talked about at the top end may not necessarily be the same Rainmaker that happens at the sort of mid level, at the low level. Though at those levels, on average, you don't have to worry as much about people picking double mist and stalling for the rest of the game. Like, they're just gonna fight for the love of the game. Or
you hit exactly the point I wanted to bring up, Pastry, because if you Rainmaker across, I do my tiering system. You have low level, mid level, and then top level. When I witnessed top level itself, they pretty much know the modes in and out, and they know how to play around that. Most teams around that mid to low level would either be playing it either at a slower, more methodical pace, if you will. And it made. Oh, if you can hear him.
I agree.
Yep. Is he
Microphone, what do
busy
you
fumbling
think?
around? We got the microphone. We got the microphone camera there. We'll get you back here, Fern. Don't worry.
Microfern.
That should
Will.
work.
Microphone. Did it
That
unplug
should
itself?
work.
Or we can hear you again.
No, it just kind of like turns itself off. So I can tell you that like in mid level I don't see a lot of missed like I don't play a lot of
No.
super stalling miscomps. People like to fight in Rainmaker, or at least to like throw a lot of bombs at shield. Um, I mean, I've never really had any qualms with it, but I'd play a weapon with a pop combo and suction bomb and an AoE special. Um, I think a lot of people think of Rainmaker as like the fastest mode, like as the most aggressive and like fast mode. So I think the idea of Rainmaker as being like super stally and boring and nothing ever happens is like kind of alien to I think a lot of people who either don't play or don't watch top level. Um I know I was like, well, what do you mean like the game's nothing happens in a Rainmaker game? It's Rainmaker. Um so I think maybe that's why people are being like or maybe why it was like a shock to people that Tubble players are saying that Rainmaker was super boring. Just because like the experience, like you were saying, the experience of it is so different at different levels. Probably more than most other modes. So yeah.
My my app comparison is how I know this is not like directly the Rainmaker mode discussion in general, but more zones feel so different to watch when you compare when you compare it across all three levels. Like top level, they just play fast and they know how to play each of the map as a whole. And then you have like okay, maybe mid level, sure they have an idea, but things aren't as fine tuned. And low level is just kind of like trying to figure out like how to play zones and it's still trying to get a hold of things. It feels like for people who are kind of shocked, saying why on earth is our top level complaining about Rainmaker? I feel like that should be the opener. Is if you watch different specific tournaments, you'll kind of get a grasp on how teams specifically play. Too, at least my read everybody is I don't think we'll see Rain. I think we'll still see Rainmaker obviously in across all levels, but I wouldn't be shocked if in specific top level tournaments like 20xx for lack of a better name I can think of, Rainmaker disappears entirely. I feel
Yeah,
that's my read on that.
that's fair. I will say the idea of splitting, you know, the levels into bubbles, I don't fully agree with that because you know like there's more fluidity to it. A player can be a top player in mechanics, but when it comes to their callouts, they may be a around the average mid-level player. But I think the big idea is like on average, how does the experience of the mode feel? And yeah, as you pinpointed, majors like 20xx may be like, you know what? Pretty much all of our top players don't like Rainmaker. Japan doesn't play Rainmaker. Let's not do that. But then, you know, like for it's like throw out like I don't know, like World 9 or something, right? Or just like I don't know, some kind of entry type tournament. It's like, well, most players aren't going to pick Mini and Zuga spam on Rainmaker, probably, hopefully. So like, it'll be fine.
And seeing the thread here that Pika Dave posted is exactly what it is. Like because when you see top level players kind of talking about Rainmakers, well, it's gonna pretty much be what other top level players are gonna think of. And naturally, we all of us here in the audience are wanting to be at that top level. We want to try to value their opinions because wait, hey, they must be the best of the best. They must mean they're right or in some capacity. But I feel like it's gonna take time for any team to try to understand the intricacies of how to play that specific map mode combination. It's exactly why I think if anything we'll still see the same maps unless the meta completely breaks the Rainmaker map pool in half or something crazy like that, or heaven
Yeah.
forbid, it's me Rainmaker becomes viable. if there's any mincemeat Rainmaker enjoyers out there, please holler at me because I want to talk with you sometime. That's
Oh God, there are those out there. I am so sorry. What is wrong
No,
with
I
you?
mean, okay, genuinely, we used to play Mincemeat Rainmaker in
Why?
tournaments. It's actually one of the better modes on that map. Like in Crab Mode, I remember I think Penguin playing it in tournaments in early Splatoon 3. It's honestly not that bad compared to like Mincemeat Tower and Clamps. I mean, I'm a Mincemeat supporter, but except for Clamps, um, I think it's better than people give it credit for. But
You
I
know,
mean, if
I
we're gonna play,
as the like the sole turf war enjoyer of the West, I feel that nobody likes turf war. I tried to ask anybody in the West to play turf war. Like one single time, no one plays it.
I mean, I tell
All
my people at Clean Corn that like all Splatoon is turf war if you think about it, and not to the same degree that you're probably talking about, Pastry, but like I think everything's turf war if you think about it. We're all turfing to some degree, so why? What? Let's just. I mean, everything's turf war once you think about it. Heck, your daily life is probably turf war.
I don't know if I want my daily life to be turf war. Dude, I don't think anywhere near me wants to be like a paintball area. Heaven forbid on that front.
Might
Look,
be.
I understand. Look, I understand turf war, but I also use turf war as an excuse to trial out weapons, admittedly. So I might have a very clouded view of of turf war as a whole. So take that as you will. Good. I'm also probably one of the rare people that actually that enjoys Brine Water Rainmaker, but it's more of a sicko love more than actually believing that it's viable.